Now, it may surprise some of you to think that any Christian would want to dispose of the Ten Commandments. But friends, this is a popular concept today. They say, oh, it's been nailed to the cross. And this is the text they use. They say, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us. They say, that's the Ten Commandments. Well, now, friends, are the Ten Commandments ever called ordinances in the Bible? Never, never, never. You see, an ordinance is a little local town rule, isn't it? It just extends out there to the city limits. Very, very narrow, limited application of an ordinance. The Ten Commandments are not called ordinances. They're more like the Constitution, you know, of the United States, if you were going to make a comparison with some local civil laws. No, no, there were certain laws of Israel and of the Old Testament that were called ordinances, all right. And ceremonial laws, you remember that was another title given to them. And they were shadows and types. But never, never do you find the Ten Commandments referred to as ordinances. And by the way, was there anything in the Ten Commandments contrary to us as Christians? It says that this was against us and contrary to us. Well, my friends, there's nothing in the Ten Commandments contrary to a Christian, is there? A Christian doesn't want to steal and lie and commit adultery and do those things. So it's in favor of him. It's in harmony with the Christian, not against him at all. So this ordinance is here that was blotted out was not the Ten Commandments at all. Now let's prove that by coming down to verse 16 where it says this, let no man therefore... Notice, therefore, on the basis of what he just said in verse 14, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink. Now, immediately, friends, we can stop right there and say, well, that surely couldn't be the Ten Commandments because there's nothing in the Ten Commandments about meat or drink, is there? Not a thing. And so that law of ordinances that ended at the cross and that was blotted out could not be the Ten Commandments. It did not contain anything about meat or drink. Now, there was a lot in the ceremonial law about meat and drink. They had their meat offerings and their drink offerings, remember, and so forth. But let's finish the rest of this verse 16 now. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come. But the body is of Christ. Now, somebody's going to say, Brother Joe, wait a minute. Even though there's nothing in the Ten Commandments about meat and drink, there is something about a Sabbath day. And so maybe this is talking about the Ten Commandments after all. Well, no, wait a minute, friends. It does say Sabbath days. Notice Sabbath days, plural. But it goes on to specify what kind of Sabbath days. It says Sabbath days which are a shadow of things to come. Now, I mentioned to you in a previous program that the seventh-day Sabbath could never be a shadow of anything. Remember that? Because it came into existence in the Garden of Eden before there was any sin. Now, you can't have a shadow unless you have sin. It was only because of sin that any of those types and shadows appeared, because they pointed forward to the deliverance from sin. And the seventh-day Sabbath was there, and the glory and purity and perfection of the Garden of Eden before sin ever existed. Now, you say, well, then what are these Sabbath days which are shadows of things to come? Well, friends, they were the yearly Sabbaths. You see, they had once-a-year feast days and Sabbath days back in the Old Testament that were counted just as holy as the seventh-day Sabbath, but they only came once a year on special, certain set days. In fact, they had several of these yearly Sabbaths. And they were days that they brought offerings on them, you remember, Day of Atonement, Passover, Pentecost, these special yearly festivals. Let's go back in our Bibles now and read about some of these in Leviticus 23. Leviticus chapter 23, and let's begin reading with verse 24 here now to get a picture of these feast days and yearly shadowy Sabbath days. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month and the 1st day of the month shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets and holy convocation. Now notice it says, in the 7th month and the 1st day of the month shall ye have a Sabbath. Well, obviously that's not the 7th-day Sabbath. It only comes once a year. And it'll come on a different day of the week every year. But it still was a Sabbath, a yearly one, a shadowy one. Then drop down to verse 27. It says also, on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you. And ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And then it goes on talking about that same feast day in verse 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest. Here's another one, you see, coming on the 10th day of the 7th month every year. A different day of the week every time. But yet it's called a Sabbath. It spells out several of these here, of the yearly Sabbaths, and then summarizes everything in verse 37. Look at verse 37 now. These are the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything upon his day, beside the Sabbaths of the Lord. Now notice, friends, how it distinguishes between the weekly Sabbath of the Lord and these yearly, shadowy Sabbaths that came only once a year. You see how he makes a difference here between them? He said, now these are besides the Sabbaths of the Lord, which is the weekly Sabbath. And notice it also talks here about the offerings that were to be made on these special yearly feast days. It said they were to bring drink offerings and meat offerings and sacrifices and burnt offerings. Well, now you understand what the meat and drink is over in Colossians, don't you? Because let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or the shadowy Sabbaths. Well, it's talking about the yearly system, friends. And this is the ceremonial law that was nailed to the cross and that ended at the cross. You see, friends, all of those things pointed forward to Jesus and his life and ministry. And all of these yearly feast days, all of those animal sacrifices, they were symbolic of the death of the real Son of God, you know, the Messiah, the Lamb of God, who would come later and die for the sins of the world. And so